Good evening, Oak Bloke here, and I'm going to talk about the works. So the works provided an update this week, which was their interim results, but also the post-Christmas or trading update for kind of what is approximately 8.5 months through their financial year. So the year end is the end of end of April, start of May. Um, so what I'm going to cover in this hopefully short video, is just a little bit around my thesis on why the works at its current share price represents good value, and why I was quite pleased with the results, even though it wasn't entirely positive. So let's kind of get into the details. So I actually released this article couple of days ago, so doing things the other way around. Normally would publish things first here on YouTube, so this is more just sort of talking through my thinking of this article. So I won't spend much time on Aboriginal philosophy, but that's kind of the parallel that I started with to say that the works is kind of a bit of a place that bit of an antidote to clicking online and just buying stuff from Amazon, buying stuff from Temu, and a few people have said, oh, Temu is a great threat to the works and Amazon and different things. And yeah, I think a lot of people like going shopping. I don't particularly, but there are lots that do, and parents that have to take their kids somewhere. It's a rainy January today. I'm sure the works have been ring-ding-dinging their tills with lots of parents going to the shops, taking their kids out for the day. Oh, let's pop into the works. So I think there's those kinds of things are quite hard to, there's like having a trip to the tablet to order some stuff on Temu for a day out isn't quite the same thing, is it? Now, I'm not saying that that's the basis for this to exist, but I think the idea that e-commerce will just demolish this, and the fact that they've got 500 stores is 500 too many, or 505 technically, is just simply not the case. I think there's still plenty of footfall. There's plenty of people. If you go to, especially the sort of out of town retail parks, I think shopping centres in many towns and cities. Obviously, there's a changing demographic as to where people want to shop, but people will drive over to their local retail outlet type, shopping park or whatever they call them, and that's where the works have been increasingly relocating to. They don't have any shop in shop type. They've looked at that. They said they did this week, but they've decided not to take that approach. But as you can see there, in these little photos that some of them are high street, some of them are shopping centres, and so on. So yeah. I think there's a space in the market for something like this, and terms of the terms of the price action this week, I mean, it went up in price the day before the results, and it went down by the same amount on the day of the results. So it's kind of essentially flat for the week. Did I feel it should be flat for the week? I mean, obviously we knew from the trading update some of the information that was shared. So we knew that there was a 62.6% margin. Quite why some people say that it's making tiny profits is it's a strange one. I mean, obviously when you're making 62.6% gross margins, um, if you sell more, you're going to make a lot more profit because on the basis that your overheads, your administrative costs are essentially or inherently fixed, or probably largely fixed. There's probably an element of variability to them, of course. But yeah, ultimately, if they can demonstrate growth to their revenue, then that's going to be a positive thing. And that was one of the insights that I took from the results, was that this this stat particularly, and this is something I've been looking at over a number of years. So going back to 2021, and this, by the way, is looking at the numbers. So what I'm doing here, just try and talk you through this, the explanation of this. So what that calculation is doing is it's saying, okay, how much of it is like for like stores? Because obviously some of it is like for like stores and some of it was online. We'll talk about the online bit in a little while, but how many stores did they have on a like for like basis? What I'm doing is those are the total stores, 505. I'm then deducting the ones that weren't like for like. Now, not like for like means the store was opened, the store was closed down, the store was relocated, or the store was refitted. Okay, and what we're told in the results was that there was seven opened, five closed, and one relocated, which 7 plus 5 plus 1 is 13. So essentially, that is sort of taking that number, dividing it by 492 like for like stores. And I don't scientifically know that this is, that 492 is precisely the right number, but I'm sort of using as best I can based on the information given to work that out. So the fact that we see that over the course of 3 or 4 years, say 4 years, that we're seeing a kind of 20, oh no, more than that, 30% increase of revenue per store, that tells me that the fact that they're opening more stores is a positive, and that the stores themselves over time are increasing their revenue. Now, some of that might just be price rises and inflation. From a units point of view, they might be only selling the same amount as they were before, quite possibly. But 30% over 4 years, I mean, inflation is not 7.5 a year. So in simple terms, they are selling more per store because 520,000 on average per store is obviously a much larger number than 400,000. So inflation doesn't explain that increase, in my opinion. Obviously, the non like for like is very variable. So the non like for like, again, all I'm doing is I'm taking the 13 stores and taking the this number here, and to get this number, I'm just saying like that. That number, which is the total minus that minus the online, whatever's left over is the non like for like. So that's why I say in the article, the closed stores must have closed at the start of the period, the open stores must have opened at the end of the period, because at the end of the day, £630,000 of sales for 13 stores is not very much. And that's obviously that's where I'm getting that data from. So overall, I mean, what we see is that over the course of 5.5 years, they've sorry, that should probably be by there, but they've moved around 220 out of 505 stores. So it's about 40% of all the stores have had something happen to them, a refit, they've opened, they've been closed, they've been relocated. There's been 40% change over 5 years, which is 5.5 years, which is pretty, like I would say after that length of time, you're getting a good feel for where, you're closing down the ones that aren't working, the ones that aren't profitable, where the footfall's just not there. Give the store manager or the area manager, like, oh, I'm going to give you another 12 months. If you can't turn this around, we're going to close you. And then some of them are getting closed, law of the jungle. But I think the fact that obviously there was, a lot of stores closing back here in 2024, 2023, so even back here. But obviously this is just a half year number. So, really we should double that number to sort of, give it a reflective for the full year. But 10 is obviously lower than 15, lower than 24. Again, I take that as a positive. If you're shutting fewer stores, that means that the ones that you're either gambling on unprofitable stores that can turn themselves around, or conversely, there are fewer stores that are unprofitable. Now, we do know from the results that over 90% are profitable, because they told us that in the results. So I think it was um, where is it? Somewhere in all of here, we've got a 98% that I think it was 98, over 98%. They said. Nope, I'm not finding that. Maybe it was if we do that. Yeah, that they did say that the vast majority of stores are profitable. Yeah, I'm not seeing that either in that in that. Maybe I just need to find the right terminology. But anyway, moving on. Moving on. So I mean, in terms of just value, like comparing it against a couple of other retailers, I guess you could say, well, for a start, the works is trading on a 2.4 times enterprise value divided by EBITDA earnings. Its price to NAV is half of a company like Marks and Spencers. And obviously, you might say, well, Marks and Spencers deserves to be more expensive because it's a more successful company or whatever. But I mean, these differences are pretty extreme. At least I think they're pretty extreme. That you're essentially paying more than twice as much for the assets of Marks and Spencers, 2.5 times as much for Hollywood Bowl, and ultimately in terms of its ability to deliver profits and profitability. I mean, this is on 4.6 times earnings on a historical basis, and I'm reckoning that we may see 4 times and possibly less, fewer than 4 times in the results. Um, so let's just move down through some more of the article. So coming on to the online area now, online, of course, yes, it was a negative. Yes, it was the bit that everyone fixated on, and there's obviously a debate. Oh, should they close down online, or should they keep it going? I mean, look, I'm not ultimately saying that it must be kept open at all costs. Ultimately, something that's losing money, it's got to have a time limit. But I think the thing having reflected on this the last couple of days, I think the thing that strikes me is that they went live with a new provider I think they said it was the 1st of September. So, I mean, you've only really got 2 months really. Start of November, you're starting then into the silly season of Christmas. I mean, like I think most people are buying presents in November for Christmas. And that's not just me and my opinion. I mean, if you go and look at website reviews of the works, you'll see, oh, we placed our order in November. So I think they had 8 weeks to kind of from scratch, work with a new provider, get the whole thing up and running. And they only they went out to tender in the spring. So it took them 6 months to go from sort of, tendering to appointing a selected. So, I mean, included in that time, presumably they were working on integration from their e-commerce front end website, which is here, through to the warehouse provide or the logistics providers systems. I mean, that's not a lot of time. And let's say the tendering and bids, that took 3 months. I mean, that takes you up till July, start of July. 3 months, July, August, September, go live 1st of September. It was a pretty aggressive project to get all of that perfected by, in time for Christmas. And that's just the nature of it. I'm not making excuses for the works, and I'm not in any way connected with the works or any of the companies I ever talk about on here. But I do think that it's not all. I mean, in my opinion, it's not altogether a surprise that it wasn't entirely successful. And when you look at the feedback of website reviews, I mean, it's interesting. Like, these are reviews from today, and there are online orders where they are saying everything came within a few days, helpful for great bargains. Well, that seems like they went in a shop. There's packed well for shipping, arrived on time, excellent details delivery notification, helpful service center staff. I mean, obviously those are just a handful. And if you go back, all positive 5 star, yeah, there we go. If we go back to now, a lot of these are saying the 25th of Christmas Day, everyone bought stuff on Christmas Day. I don't know if that's an accurate date. I mean, obviously they've written it today. But yeah, we can see, there was some items that arrived broken. There was some, they contacted, didn't hear back. So there's been some customer service issues, not up to scratch. Got the second lot, so there's missing items. Service was slow. So I mean, you haven't got to look hard to find negatives, but in and amongst there are also, there's also positives. Excellent, overpriced. Yeah, that's what I said. You wait until middle of January and buy your 2026 diary, because I mean, I can see today the works have got it for sale for 50p. Not my fault that you went and bought it for whatever you bought it for, not for 50p. I have very little sympathy for that complainer, for that harumpher. Anyway, yeah, then there's somebody there, inaccessible, shop for the disabled, needs to be nearer a bus stop. I guess there's sort of a mixture of reviews. There we go. Here we go. Poor experience. Order was delayed. So clearly there was a problem. Delays, missing items. There wasn't a proper joined up process for customer service issues and dealing with those. And yeah, obviously that has cost them. It's cost them in refunds. It's cost them in negative feedback, and obviously when people talk negatively about a company, they'll tell, I think it's 12 people, and if they have a positive experience, they'll tell 2 people. So negatives always spread faster than positives. Nevertheless, okay, yeah, I mean that is a negative. It is. And they've got an opportunity now to turn it around, or to bin it. Clearly they're not going to. I mean, I don't think we're going to see Christmas 2026 with those kinds of negative reviews again, because that would kill the works. I think it will be the case that in 2026 they'll either make it profitable and successful, or they'll kill it off. They'll turn it into click and collect only, or whatever. And I think click and collect only, I mean, if they changed it to that model, I think that could work. I mean, I think that would be a middle ground that would actually work okay for a lot of people. So yeah, we'll see. But when you look at the when you look at the numbers, when you look at the online variable costs, you look at the average gross margin, and you look at the the 8.67 million of sales, it kind of adds up, where at a 62.6% gross margin, the online profit should have been 5.4 million. The online variable costs were 5.4 million, which suggests that it kind of scraped through on break even. Now, obviously, there could well be overhead costs and so on that are just not being broken out and split out, and therefore actually it's running at a loss, but we just don't know what the numbers are. And on top of that, there's also the exceptional costs. So yes, it definitely did make a loss. But it was interesting in the presentation from the CFO and CEO that they said that the loss in the second half was going to end up being less than the loss that was made in FY25, and the loss in FY25 was 1.2 million. So again, it's if they've lost less than 1.2 million and it never happens again, like, as far as I'm concerned, okay, yes, that was a negative, but if it can be in the rearview mirror, and ultimately, I think if the works can sell online, I think that would be a positive if they can successfully. Because, I mean, if you've got more than 31 million visitors, which is what they said they had, that it increased year on year, the number of visitors to their website. I mean, if you've got millions of people going in here and say, oh, goody, goody, 50% off, like this is what I would do. Oh, yes, there we go. Middle of January, I can get my diary for 50p. I mean, it does say here that I'd have to get 3 diaries, which is a bit strange, but um, maybe I'll get one for like 2 members of my family or something. Who knows? But anyway, that is the negative news over. The positive, as I say, that one of the positives is the growing revenue per store. Another positive was that comparatively to the sector that they outperformed by a long way. Not everyone did. I mean, some of the trading updates from some of the supermarkets and some of the other shops weren't very strong at all. I mean, of course, there's always going to be winners and losers. So I took from it quite a lot of positives. I mean, the 4% like for like growth, that's a real positive. And again, if this number can be turned around, then the overall like-for-like growth will be positive as well. I mean, Marks and Spencers by comparison had a 3.3% shrinkage, albeit majority of that problem was in the clothing, whereas the M&S food is going great guns. But at the end of the day, I mean, the clothing side of M&S is not inconsequential. It's about, I think it's something like about half their business. So um, yeah, I mean, to grow 1.2 when the rest are when many others are shrinking, when it was a drab Christmas. I mean, the other thing that does is just massively de-risk the EBITDA 11 million forecast that they made. Because when you think about it, they're 3/4 of the way through the year, and the bit that matters is that third quarter. The fourth quarter, up until like where we are today, up until the end of April, the spring, isn't a key period for them. I mean, yes, it will be, and maybe another 15% of the revenue, but I would say they are 85% of the way there on the basis that Christmas is November through to January. Black Friday, Christmas, post Christmas sale, New Year's sale, like all of that is going to be a disproportionately large number of, because we know that it is, because they tell us that it is. So they're 85% through to their target of 11 million EBITDA. And 11 million EBITDA, I mean, if you look at the numbers, obviously, taking the depreciation element, I would say 11 million a bit, gets you very, very close to something approaching that five, that 5 million overall. So essentially 10.4 positive, 5.4 negative gets you to a net overall 5 million, which would be a price earnings of 4 times. Well, actually, at 19.6 million, it's slightly under. It's 3.9 something times earnings. So, I mean, you'll notice here I've said I'm assuming 3.8 million of tax, which obviously on taking 25% tax on 14.2 million, that's kind of why I'm doing 3.8 million of tax. But you'll notice back here, I mean, they've never paid 3.8 million of tax, so what would cause them to suddenly pay a lot more tax this period? I'm just playing it safe and saying, that's 25% corporation tax. I suspect that there's calculations and different things that mean that that it won't end up at that number. If that number is too high, then it's going to be more than 5 million. This is why I say that it might be 7 million if that is 1.8. And obviously 1.8 is far higher than last year, 0.8 here, like far higher. That's like over double the tax. When the profit was 17 and a half, they paid zero point 0.8, obviously that minus the interest costs, 15.1, they paid zero point 0.8 million tax on 15.1 profit. It might, I mean, look, if it's 8 and, you're buying a company for 19.6 million that makes 8 million, that's 2.5 price earnings. So it feels like the wrong price for that reason. The bigger picture is that the works are looking by 2030 to be at 375 million. So obviously, we can see here, I mean, they are currently at about 275, something like 275. So they're looking to grow sales by 100 million, roughly. Quarter of that will be just by opening new stores. Some of that will be through optimizing space. Some of that will be through online, is one of the drivers, but also doing other things like events outside of Christmas. So back to school, Halloween, Easter, different events as well. Also to attract and go after different customers. I mean, I thought this about students and stocking products that students would want in student cities was a great idea. I mean, again, that's just sort of being innovative, looking at your footfall, looking at understanding and analyzing who's coming into your shops, what sort of things do they want, just listening, asking questions, being curious. Curiosity is such a skill, such a simple thing though. I mean, all you've got to do is just basically be interested in people and and just have, like, I don't know, like, say to your shop staff, like, we'll give you, I don't know, 50 quid of vouchers or something if you come up with some great ideas and insights as to who the people are that are coming into the shop. I mean, working in a shop's not the most interesting thing in the world, at least I don't think so. So kind of gives them something interesting to go after, to say, hey, let's see if we can find out some insights and like, let's target those audiences a little bit. So this as well, I thought the fact that they got 5.8 million impressions in sort of online news and 57 pieces of coverage, Channel 5, the Daily Mirror, all different sort of newspapers, publications. I mean, obviously these publications are always looking for content and whatever, and that's what PR is all about. And I think this whole thing about like worrying about your children is a big theme. I mean, newspapers are all over that. So, the coverage that they appear to have got, um, I sort of make the point here that, like, well, like, what sort of coverage was Marks and Spencer's or sort of one of the big boys getting? I mean, and Marks and Spencer's is 370 times the size of the works. So did they get 370 times the PR? I don't think so. Like, they were in the news for their cyber attack, which obviously is not great PR, that's a negative PR, but they do say any PR, any coverage is good, um, even if it's bad. But yeah, like, for me, I think when I see them doing things like that, I find that quite inspiring and quite positive. And for me, I think there's a lot of parents that worry about their kids and worry about them staring into the screen. I've said in an article, when I was on holiday in where was I, in Cyprus, and I was at this rather lovely hotel, and it was sort of half board, so meals included in the evening. And we went to this. I mean, it was beautiful food, but I won't bore you with that. But we went to this sort of. It was open air, boiling hot. So I mean, open air. You wouldn't want to. Well, actually, you could sit inside, but everyone was pretty much sat outside. But honestly, there was one family where they were actually just talking to one another, and these parents, children, they're all on holiday together, spending time together, and yet they are literally just like every family, the kids, there with a screen, just staring at a screen throughout them, and eating their food, staring at a screen. Dreadfully sad. Like, that is an absolute indictment on modern culture, as far as I'm concerned. So I think deep down, people realise that that's the wrong thing to be doing. That's not bringing your kids up. Well, I'm not going to get into like what's the right way to, but you get what I'm saying. That I think leaning into this theme of, like, screen time has its place, but it's not the be all and end all. I sort of make the point in this article, like, we don't live in the lawnmower man world of virtual reality and Roblox and sort of like, and I don't think we ever will. I honestly don't think we ever will. This sort of this idea of living inside a fantasy world of some kind. I think, whilst your body wastes away in a chair and you've got like some sort of helmet that transports you to this place where you're sort of, you know, 21 years old and 6 foot high and muscular and whatever, like, you can be whoever you want to be. You can sort of, become a frog for a day or something. I don't know. Like, I don't think, I mean, whilst people might do that for like a couple of hours for a laugh, would people go and live in these worlds permanently? Like, whilst you physically, your body is just sat there, like, I just don't think so. I really do not think so. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that is the future, and we'll all be we'll just have our brains in like jars, like in that advert, and sort of we will sort of transport our brains into whichever, I don't know, virtual world or virtual body that we want to choose. Maybe that's our futures. Kind of like a sort of like a horror film thing where the creatures kind of take control of your brain or something. Anyway, enough of that. Back to this, and yeah. So look, I just think, when you look at it from a cash point of view as well, the cash is all telling us that it's heading in the right direction as well. The yeah, and the year end is, as I say, just 3 months ahead. In the 2027 year, I added this later, by the way, so if you've read the article and not seen it since, so basically, they also say that they're looking at able to save 1 million in business rates in F7. They talk about further sales growth, 10 new stores, 2% expansion to the estate, delivering an estimated 5 million run rate of revenue would equate to more than 3 million of gross profit. If online can pop in 2027, it's early days, but I am encouraged by these most recent reviews where, a few weeks ago people were angry, unhappy, but today there's a few positive reviews starting to creep through, or more than a few actually. I mean, there's quite a number. If it's turned, I mean, maybe it's turned a corner already. If so, could we see a real growth, a real bounce back? It's not impossible. That's something to look forward to. I say here, that could deliver maybe 5, 10, 12 million of gross profit, if they can get it working. And if they can get to that 6 million EBITDA margin that they talk about here, or part of this is to deliver a 6% EBITDA margin. If that's achievable, and if they've got 250 of revenue, I mean, that equates to a 10 million profit run rate. And obviously, if they can get that to 350 million, or 375 million, as they say here, 375 million. Obviously, that's higher again. I mean, it would be it would be over 3 times today's share price, at a fair value, at a target price. So look, it wasn't a great Christmas. It wasn't a bumper Christmas. They did pretty well. I call it the three-legged race, where you're racing alongside a two left-legged person, which is of course the online. So I liked the MD. I thought the MD presented himself well. He's clearly been able to achieve cost savings and margin increases. He's achieving things. He seems like a doer, is what I've said. Yeah, he just needs to square away now the online, one way or the other. I think the strategy is the right one, is a good one. I think there's mileage there. and yeah, so far, it, it's progressing broadly in line with what I was anticipating it would be able to. A little bit has got knocked off, but the retail side is performing kind of as I anticipated. So I remain, on the basis that it's going to be delivering those kinds of earnings results. It feels, that I'm going to remain invested in this. I mean, none of this is investment advice, and you make your own investment decisions, but that's the decision I'm making, and you're just obviously watching this to compare notes, or however you want to put it. But yeah, I think there's a number of positives that and operating cash. Can't don't think we actually talked about that, but the fact that operating cash has doubled, I think that is also something that was missed by other people. That actually is very significant. That compared to 2024, when they generate in the first half generated 5 million of operating cash, that we see, 10.8 million in this week's results. So a more than doubling of operating cash flow, which tells me that as far as I can see, things are heading in the right direction, and that's also reflected in the results in the balance sheet. Now, again, it's early days, and it's quite difficult to sort of extrapolate too much, but we know, the market cap's 19.6. The NAV of the business at the 2nd of November was 12.5. So yes, it's at a premium to NAV, but we also know that gross cash grew from 3.7 to 15.5 between the interim results and the trading update date. That cash level was nearly 1 million higher than this time, the same time the year before, and they're anticipating to end up at 4.1. I mean, it's not really a lot of kind of guesswork you can do with just knowing those numbers, the gross cash, and the net cash. But it's, again, the cash, like I always say, does the cash mirror the theoretical profit? And it is, it does appear to be. Of course, it's final results that you can know for sure, but on the basis that, and I think it was one of the things that I did with this here, where I mean, you can see the adjusted bit result is growing there, and the the net profit growing there. Uh, and it's really just sort of taking the existing assumptions to reach that. So, for example, there, that 155 is just sort of taking the known value, which is this one, and then adding to that the 55%, because that's the ratio. That's the ratio of sales in the first half to the second half. So on the basis that the second half is like it was the year before, about 55, just over 55%, then it's going to get there. And the fact that they've reiterated the 11 million, it all tallies together. Anyway, enough from me. Hope that's been useful, talking through why I believe um, could do well. But ultimately, make your own investment decisions. Thank you very much for watching, and cheerio from me.